In the Italian game, I would like to talk about the line which was played in the second game of the World Championship match between Dinglian and Gukesh. So after e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5 was played. Black can also start with knight f6, and in many games black also starts with knight f6 because forced lines after knight g5, d5, which used to be quite popular 1-2 years ago. These days, the verdict of the theory is that black is doing fine, and actually in 2024 we didn't see many of the high-level games in these variations. And even if instead of knight g5, white plays d3, and black continues bishop c5, then white can transpose to the variation which we are looking today with knight c3. So back to bishop c5, d3, knight f6, and now not the move c3, which is the most popular move in this position, but the move knight c3, which is an important direction in Italian and which was played in 2024 in several high-level games. And I think that these days the main idea of knight c3 is just to get the bishop pair. For instance, after d6, white plays knight a4, and after bishop b6, white plays a3, and if in order to keep the bishop alive. And for instance, in the game, in the very recent game, which was played in Vaikanzia 2025, Giri Warmerdam, after h6, castle short, bishop g4. This is a rare move, but we'll see also castle short. Instead of this, c3, bishop h5, white takes on b6 and plays queen e2. Now white is happy with the bishop pair, and although the position is very close to equal, something like this is what white is aiming for. In the game Nepomniachtchi Kaima, instead of bishop g4, black played castle short. This is actually considered best for black, h3, rook e8, and after rook e1, instead of bishop e6, I think here looks normal, Kaima played bishop knight d4 and allowed white again to get something he is aiming for in such position. c3, bishop b6, now white exchanges black's bishop and keeps his own bishop. Bishop e6, bishop c2 was played, and again the position might be very close to equal, but at least white has a bishop pair and hopes to exploit this factor in the future. After the move knight c3, another important move for black is h6, because generally in these variations white often connects his plan with the move bishop g5, and if black castles short, then after bishop g5, h6, bishop h4, when black plays g5, black always has to be ready with the sacrifices on g5. So h6 is a very popular move. And now in the game Nepomniachtchi Carlsen, which was a sort of rapid blitz game, it was played over the board with I think 10 minutes plus 2 seconds. Bishop e3, bishop b6, white introduced an important novelty. Bishop takes b6. Bishop b6 for black is actually considered the best. A takes b6, and now d4. So white played first d3 and then played d4. It's a modern chess, very concrete approach in every position. And e takes d4, knight takes d4, castle short, and now white introduced a strong novelty, knight db5, which allows white to arrange the pieces the way he wants, because here if white castles, then black has knight takes e4, knight takes e4 and d5, and simplifies the position and equalizes. Knight db5 prevents this, and after rook e8, white can castle, because the pawn on e4 actually is not hanging. White has the typical bishop takes f7, check, and queen f3. Double attack. Actually here after knight takes e4, white also has knight d5, which is actually even stronger. White wins immediately. So d6 was played by Carlsen, but now rook e1, and after knight e5, Nepomniachtchi played bishop f1, and generally white can be happy in such positions. He is slightly better thanks to a bit more space. Actually the knight on b5 he is also strong, and the pawn on e4 against the pawn on d6 secures some space advantage. So let's go back to the game from the World Championship match. Gukesh played here the move a6. Also a standard move just to prevent these ideas with knight a4. Now white played a4, d6 was played, castle short, h6, bishop e3, bishop e6. If we look at the position, we see how many possibilities here. At this moment, white has how many possibilities to choose a structure. White can take on c5 and on e6. White can take only on e6 or only on c5, or allow black to do this. So a very complex position, and after a long thinking, Ding played here a5, which is a novelty in this position, gains more space. It's very little, but this is a type of position, almost symmetrical position, and white just wants to gain at least something, and this is typical for the whole line. Now it is black who can choose what structure to play. Gukesh took on c4, and then if black takes here on e3, we have a very unusual structure with two double pawns, but white has to open files for his rooks, and it's a very complex position. Gukesh didn't play it. He castled short, and now Ding Liren went for allowed black to exchange pieces, and actually the game didn't last too long. In 23 moves this was a draw, but it was interesting to see the commentators here supported by the evaluation of the engine, which shows that white here actually has possibilities to improve the position and to play the endgame. So to conclude, about the line with knight c3, it's quite popular, and it gains more and more popularity, not necessarily because white gets an advantage, but because it's very safe. White has some clear ideas, and also because in other lines with c3 there is also no advantage. So it's just a direction of playing the Italian these days.